video is broadcast on LSL Podcast Channel. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe to the channel.
Let not your heart be troubled. You are listening to the Sean Hannity Radio Show podcast. So like many of you, I have trouble sleeping. I have insomnia. No matter what I tried, it wouldn't work until I met Mike Lindell and I got my very own MyPillow. It has changed my life. What makes MyPillow so different is MyPillow's patented adjustable fill. In other words, you can adjust the patented fill to your exact individual needs so you get the support you need and want to help you get to sleep faster and stay asleep longer. Just go to MyPillow.com or call 1-800-919-6090. Remember, use the promo code Hannity. When you do, Mike Lindell will give you his best offer ever. Buy one pillow and get another one absolutely free. MyPillow, made in the USA, 10-year unconditional warranty, and it has a 60-day, no-questions-asked money-back guarantee. You have nothing to lose. So it's time for you to start getting the quality of sleep that you've been wanting and we need. Just go to MyPillow.com or call 800-919-6090, promo code Hannity. Take advantage of Mike's special 2-for-1 offer. MyPillow.com, promo code Hannity. All right, glad you're with us, Sean Hannity Show. We got a ton of stuff breaking as we come on the program today. Glad you could be with us. Write down our toll-free telephone number. It's 800-941-SEAN. You want to be a part of the program. We have had such good economic news before we get going today. Now we got new numbers in. This is an amazing statistic. And I know there's amazing news that everybody would want to hear. Fake news editors never report any of the good news on the economy. When you break down unemployment by demographics, which is what the Department of Labor Bureau of Statistics do all the time, what do we find out? Unemployment for white America is 3.7%. Asian unemployment, 3.5%. Hispanic unemployment rate is 5.2%. And the black community is 7.5%. Here's the interesting part. That is the lowest level since December of 2000. The lowest level. And one of the ironies of expanding job prospects, this mostly, during Barack Obama's presidency, black unemployment was in double digits, hitting a high mark of 16.8% in March of 2010. And between July of 2008 and February of 2015, the black unemployment rate was above 10%. And I know that, there's a disconnect. I know every single time that we have in this country a race like we have in the Commonwealth of Virginia today. I hope Ed Gillespie is able to pull that out. That'd be pretty fascinating. It's such if you're in Virginia and you haven't voted today, I'd get out. It'd be fascinating to watch. The president is doing all of this with the economy is now the result of Donald Trump alone, not these weak, timid, spineless Republicans. Now we're told that the bill in the Senate on tax reform is dead on arrival, John McCain announced, and other senators announcing. Obviously, to me, this is now what's more important to you, your hatred of Donald Trump or your desire to serve your country and the people? Because this has always been a Republican principle, cutting corporate rates, cutting repatriation, cutting individual rates. Although Republicans now have totally caved again and showed nothing but cowardice, like they didn't want to use the power of the purse to repeal Obamacare, nor do they want to use, because they would be blamed for a government shutdown, nor do they want to, fight for Reagan conservative supply side economics. They can't stand being called, oh, you're looking out for the rich, tax cuts for the rich. Chuck Schumer's saying it anyway. And it's not true, because the rich get whacked in this new tax reform bill. And that was the part of the equation Larry Kudlow told you last week. Dave Brad agreed with me last week, is they don't want to fight the fight over class warfare. But 10% of the population pays 70% of the tax bill. 20% pays nearly all of it. 50% pays none of the federal income tax bill. And there's Charles Gasparino reported that McCain has pronounced the Trump tax plan dead on arrival. It's ridiculous. Anyway, and then we had yesterday reporting commentary. The GOP snuck a hidden tax bracket into their new tax bill. They did it the day after they rolled it out, so nobody would actually notice it. And the legislation aimed, the corporate tax part of it's good, 20% from 35%. The repatriation part of it's good. We'll get multinationals to invest trillions in the country and build factories and manufacturing centers. I said my goal was always to help the forgotten men and women. But if you don't take the 20% to pay the 90+% of the income taxes, by any definition, they're going to be called rich by any Democrat that plays the class warfare game. But anyway, Republicans hidden bracket after, for those that make $1 million in taxable income, the government would then impose a 6% surcharge on every dollar earned until it made up the tax benefits that the rich received from the low tax rate on the first $45,000. Only this is stuff Democrats do. That's not a Reagan conservative 70 to 28% across the board tax cuts that doubled revenues to the federal government, doubled them. Oh, well, you're going to lose money because you're not taxed. No, economic growth brings in new revenue and it creates jobs and less dependency. And people that were being helped out now are helping paying taxes. So the whole thing's a mess. But, the jobs cut, literally we now have 30 years we now have hit a 30-year housing building high in the country. You want to look at the National Board of Realtors announced that houses are selling at the fastest pace in 30 years. The Conference Board reported consumer confidence is at a 17-year high. Last week, the Atlanta Fed projected GDP growth for the fourth quarter, 4.5%. We even get close to 4%. It's a miracle, considering Congress hasn't implemented a tax plan yet. And then we have job cuts have hit their lowest level in 2 decades. We have people that are using food stamps, the lowest level in 7 years. And it's all happened before there's been any real economic growth plan put in place by Republicans. Even the Washington Post told Democrats, stop lying about the GOP tax plan. ADP says the economy added another 235,000 jobs just in the month of October alone. Over 1 million new jobs are there. We have the president now is going to be acting on getting rid of the Obamacare mandate through executive action, which is great. So you got a lot of good economic news. And I guarantee you're not going to hear it in your Russia, Trump collusion, conspiracy theory media. But what's happening is there's things now developing almost every hour of every day. Now, I'll give you one example. There's a new lawsuit that has been filed against the Justice Department suggesting that the former FBI director, James Comey, and his close friend, Robert Mueller, may have colluded in Mueller's attempt to prosecute members of the Trump administration. Any evidence showing Mueller coordinated, this is in the Washington Examiner, Mueller coordinating with Comey could validate critics' claims that Mueller's conflicts of interest in the case are so severe he needs to resign. Judicial Watch now wants all the records of communications between Comey and the Justice Department, which would include communications to Mueller in the run-up to Comey's appearance before the Senate Intelligence Committee in June. Now, it would be a scandal if Comey coordinated his Senate testimony with Mueller's special counsel office, considering that it was Comey who leaked the information for the very purpose of what? Getting a special counsel appointed. Rod Rosenstein, who also knew along with Mueller that the Russians had people, agents of Vladimir Putin in the country using bribery, extortion, and racketeering and kickbacks and money laundering. Why didn't they do anything about that? That led to the GPS, Russian paid, Hillary bought and paid for dossier, the salacious lying details from the Russians to influence that election. I mean, there's so much corruption here every single day. It's almost impossible to keep up with this. And, there's a certain repetitiveness to it, but I'm trying to just give you the new information and give you the background because it's hard to follow at this point. Now, Catherine Herridge over at Fox News is reporting the co-founder of Fusion GPS, the firm behind the unverified Trump dossier, met with a Russian lawyer before and after a key meeting that she had last year with Trump's son. Let me repeat that. The co-founder of Fusion GPS, they're the ones that put together the phony Russian dossier bought and paid for by Hillary Clinton. OK, they paid for that. Full of lies, hookers, writs, urinating on beds and all this other crap to influence the election and spread it throughout the phony fake news media in this country. Anyway, bottom line, the co-founder met with the Russian lawyer before and after that key meeting with Donald Trump Jr., according to Fox News. The context shed entire new light on how closely tied the firm was to Russian interests. The very people that paid this group was Hillary Clinton. and the DNC, but the DNC we now know was bought and owned by Hillary Clinton with the secret contract when the fix was in, so Bernie had no shot at ever winning the primary. And they disenfranchised every Bernie voter in the country. And they disenfranchised because the fix was in with superdelegates. She ran the entire DNC. Bernie's not going to get any help from them. Remember the odd timing of the debate? She didn't want anybody to see the debates. Oh, let's put it up on against football. Let's put it up against the Super Bowl. We'll figure out a way to hide this. Anyway, the op research firm has now renewed scrutiny after litigation revealed that the DNC and Hillary Clinton's campaign paid for all of that Russian propaganda, all of those Russian lies. And now Republicans have since questioned whether the politically financed research contributed to the FBI's investigation of Russia collusion with the Trump campaign. In other words, you got to think through this. If there was a FISA warrant, which we believe there was, and the predicate for the warrant was the Clinton DNC funded, paid for Russian dossier, and that they went before a FISA court and they used that phony, fraudulent, lying dossier as the means to get a wiretap on Trump Tower. Imagine where this is going here. I've known this is coming for a while, just telling you. I've been sworn to secrecy at certain times, but now it's coming out. It makes the Fusion GPS, paid by Hillary, bought and paid for by her, contacts with Russian interests could be the predicate to lie to a court to get a warrant on an opposition candidate before an election. You following me here? I'm telling you, it gets hard to follow. The meeting with Donald Trump Jr. and this Russian lawyer occurred during this critical period. And at the time, we've learned at Fox that the bank records show Fusion GPS was paid by a law firm for work on behalf of a Kremlin-linked oligarch while paying the former British spy, the MI6 guy, Christopher Steele, to dig up dirt on Trump by paying Russians for the dirt. You understand? But hours before the Trump Tower meeting, this is the one that took place that we have all heard so much about, Fusion co-founder, ex-Wall Street Journal reporter Glenn Simpson, met with the woman who was about to meet with Donald Jr. in a Manhattan federal courtroom, according to a source to the Fox News channel. Court records reviewed by Fox News and email correspondence and published reports corroborate the pair's presence together. And the source said, Fox News, that they were also together after the Trump Tower meeting. Does this now sound like a setup? And Simpson's presence, the GPS guy, Fusion GPS guy, with this Russian woman that met with Junior, together with revelations about Fusion's simultaneous financial ties to Hillary Clinton, the Clinton campaign, the DNC that she's running, paying Russian interests, raised questions about the company's role in the 2016 election. Real Russian collusion. Now, supposedly Mueller's investigating the Trump Tower meeting. Maybe this would be interesting information for him to look at. How could he look at any of this information when he himself is compromised? Anyway, we got so much to tell you. I'm telling you, I am trying my best to make this understandable. There's a lot. This is separate and apart. Fixing the election, the primary, trying to fix the general by paying for Russian propaganda lies, maybe getting a warrant on Donald Trump, your opposition party, to set this president up for all the deep state leaks that we've had and everything else, and trying to influence the American people. And by the way, that doesn't even bring up the, let's fix, the fix was in with Comey as he wrote her exoneration note long before Hillary had ever testified or the witnesses were even questioned. Or like Loretta Lynch meeting with Bill on the tarmac, the fix is always in with the Clintons. Hey, you know how I love hearing great American success stories and sharing them all with you. Well, our favorite T-shirt, underwear, sock company, Tommy John, well, that's one of them. Now, Tom Patterson grew up in a small town in South Dakota. After college, he had a successful career. He was selling medical devices on the West Coast. But he quickly became fed up with the way his undershirt kept coming untucked. So despite having zero background in men's fashion whatsoever, Tom sketched up some designs for smarter undergarments. Now, starting out of his apartment and growing Tommy John to the the globally recognized company it is today, well, Tom did, the American dream. Now, of course, they're super soft. They're undershirts. Guess what? They never come untucked. Plus, all of Tommy John underwear is backed by the best pair you'll ever wear, guarantee, or it's free. Go to TommyJohn.com/Hannity for 20% off your first order, and Tommy will donate 5% of this month's sales from TommyJohn.com/Hannity to the Honor Foundation to empower Navy SEALs who are now transitioning to civilian life. That's TommyJohn.com/Hannity. All right, as we roll along, Sean Hannity Show. News, information you're not going to get anywhere else. There is this pattern. Let me explain how the law works here. If we're going to look at potential laws and the dossier scandal, Greg Jarrett has done amazing research on all of this. The Federal Election Campaign Act, 52 U.S.C. 30101, filing a false or misleading campaign report. Was that a problem that they funneled that money through a lawyer, that the DNC used the same lawyer, that the Obamas used the same lawyer? Federal Election Campaign Act prohibits foreign nationals and governments in U.S. campaigns. Really? Well, they're paying foreign nationals, a guy in Great Britain, to get dirt on Donald Trump from Russia. So that's a potential lawbreaker. Uranium one? Okay, we'd have to look at the federal bribery statute, the federal gratuity statute, the mail fraud statute, the wire fraud statute, the program bribery statute, the Travel Act, Racketeering Influence and Corruptions Organization Act. You know what? You want to look at laws broken as it relates to the Clinton email server scandal? The Espionage Act, 18 U.S.C. 798, 18 U.S.C. 793, mishandling classified information through gross negligence, knowingly, willfully mishandling classified information, all of which she did when she put it in a mom-and-pop shop server. And, of course, then it's the removal, the Federal Records Act, and destruction of government records. That's a felony. Or 18 U.S.C. 1924, unauthorized removal and retention of classified information. It's pretty unbelievable that all of this is going on. Now, I'm going to tell you this. When Comey goes ahead and he agrees to calling it a matter because Loretta Lynch says don't call it an investigation, call it a matter, and takes on Clinton's talking points, when Comey himself is writing her exoneration before he does the work, his earlier draft, again, before he interviewed the witnesses or did any investigative work, and Comey writes the words gross negligence, that is the legal standard. That is an extreme departure from ordinary care, gross negligence. Well, he just changed it because it was the exact verbiage that was in the law to extreme carelessness. Now, Comey misinterpreted this knowingly and willfully because she violated the Espionage Act, as I just mentioned. The legal standard is whether Clinton intended to set up a private server, intended to use it exclusively for communications as Secretary of State, which would inevitably include classified documents. She did it, so it violates the statute. And Clinton could be charged with 110 counts. Anyway, Clinton destroyed the documents. That, too, is obstruction of justice, Federal Records Act, Public Officers Law. All right, a lot more coming up straight ahead. All right, glad you're with us. 25 now till the top of the hour. Toll-free numbers 809. Moving the microphone. Sorry, it got stuck. How are you guys in there? How's everybody in there today? What's today's date, by the way? Why is there a Christmas tree in my studio? Is it Christmas yet? Why is there a Christmas tree in the studio already?
The problem is, first of all, did you like the Christmas tree topper? Did you happen to take a look at that?
I saw that part. All right, can we stay off that?
A star is born.
Okay, they put me on the top of the Christmas tree, this little number one finger with with an ugly picture of me plastered all over it.
So anyways, so we put this tree up because the holidays go so fast. It's like,
why don't you just leave it up all year long?
I would. I know some people who do that. I think it's a little odd, all year long. It's my humble opinion.
I don't know anybody that does that.
I know. I've met one or two. It's a little odd.
All right, you can tell everybody. You, your husband, your baby went down to my condo in Florida, and I leave the Christmas tree up all year because I don't go.
It's not just a Christmas tree.
Oh, that's all that I've ever seen.
Santa threw up, and you just walk in.
Yeah.
It's like, hi, Here's all the little Christmas balls that your
I go there.
can shatter.
I go there once a year. I don't have time to go the rest of the year.
Yeah,
I'm working.
Why decorate
I'm not
with your family?
This isn't Congress. This is not Congress. I don't have every other week off like Congress does.
On Jesus' birthday.
Okay, so I leave it up so that I don't have to spend my time being aggravated, taking the stupid thing out of a box and setting it up every year.
Well, you're welcome that we did it for you here.
Well, I leave it up for the so if people go to visit, I'm sorry, it's in a little corner, it's a little tree, it's not that big.
It's your entire
Did it
house.
irritate you?
Yes.
It irritated you.
Yes, it's not appropriate.
Oh, I'm sorry that my condo that I'm sharing with you and basically everybody else in the world. We now have an official schedule for my condo in Florida. And people just have dates, and they would just fill in the calendar. I'm going this weekend. I'm going this week. I'm going this weekend.
It's a timeshare.
It's like a timeshare. But what good is it for me to let it sit there empty? It's no good. I mean, I bought it. I thought I would use it more, and I don't.
Be cheery all year long.
I wish I could be down there because they don't pay federal. They don't pay state income taxes down there, and I'm stuck up here with my 10% state tax and my 3% local tax. Or city tax. So I get taxed for breathing in New York.
That you no longer can do
foul, disgusting, smelly air, by the way. It's not exactly, I can't stand, and you do this, so I'm blaming you too. The people that walk on the sidewalk in New York and with their dogs, and their dogs pee all over the sidewalk that we walk on. Now, they have to pick up
something special.
They have to pick up the poop.
That we don't know
but
about?
Let me tell you what half the people in New York do with the poop thing. They just turn around. They know when the dog's making the movement that the dog's about to, poop. Their heads turn magically in the other direction and they just walk away and they don't pick it up.
I can assure you
that you pick it up.
In every group, there are some bad actors. In every group.
Okay, did you ever step on dog poop in New York?
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Oh, gosh, yeah. It's
everywhere. Probably have stepped on human poop in New York with all the homeless. Let's be honest.
Breaking news.
Seriously? All the homeless rate under Comrade de Blasio. So it's sad that Bo Dietl's. I don't think he's going to be the next mayor, but I love Bo anyway. He would have been a great mayor. It would have been like, let's see what Bo's doing today. It'd be like it's like with the president. This president keeps you engaged. Say everything you want about Donald Trump. But you know what? He fights for what he believes in. And you know what? To watch liberals on a daily basis bubble and fizz like Alka-Seltzer in water is pretty darn entertaining. And if Hillary won, we'd be bored to death. I mean, except all the corruption probably would have gotten her impeached here. So the president is away for what, 2 days or 3 days, whatever it is, and he's in Japan. And the media is so desperate to be involved in destroying Trump, they brought up a phony fish scandal. Did you hear about this? That he was improperly feeding the Japanese fish. What do you call those fish? What, koi? Koi, New York talk. All right, so anyway, it began Sunday night. CNN circulated a deceptively edited video that appeared to show the president was feeding the fish with his Japanese counterpart and simply dumping the box of fish into the pond. So what? Now, the apparent breach of fish feeding protocol immediately goes viral, as Trump was seen as impatient to thoughtfully spoon the fish food into the pond as his counterpart was doing. This is a media story. He gets 2 scoops of ice cream and everybody else gets 1 scoop of ice cream. Anyway. So this went viral on Twitter and everything else. They circulate a false report snidely tweeting Trump was supposed to be feeding the fish with a spoonful with the prime minister, but he got impatient and dumped the whole box of food in the pond. By the way, lucky fish. They get it all in one shot. What's so bad about that? And then whoever gets, then the best fish,
I mean, I wish the left
survival
cared
of the
that
fittest.
much about, Donna Brazil or Bergdahl or any of those things. But they're on the koi story, so that's good.
Here's one tweet. Per pool, Trump and Abe were each feeding koi in a pond spoonfuls of fish. Then this happened. And it goes on. Now, the only problem is it's all untrue. The non-edited video shows both leaders casually spoon food to the fish. After doing so for approximately 30 seconds, Abe dumped the remainder. So his counterpart, Abe, dumped the remainder of the box into the pond. Trump followed his lead and did the same. Oh, sorry. Fake news. Yeah, CNN. This is CNN. Fake news. All right, so there's another interesting story. Rowan Scarborough's a great writer for the Washington Times, really smart guy. He has a headline out: Russian dossier investigators suspect, now get this part, reporters were paid to spread collusion claims. Anyway, the role of reporters now is taking on an added importance in federal court battles over the infamous dossier that leveled unverified charges of collusion against Donald Trump and his campaign. In U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia, Fusion GPS, the dossier's financier, in other words, Fusion GPS got paid by Hillary and the Democrats, as I was explaining in the last half hour, is fighting a House committee chairman's bid to find out if the opposition research firm actually paid so-called journalists. Well, I'd like an answer to that question, too. We already know that they colluded during the campaign. A lot of networks did. Anyway, in a district court in Florida, a self-described dossier victim wants a judge to order the news website BuzzFeed, which published the dossier in full, to disclose who gave it to them. That's going to get interesting. The case underscores, both of them, how Moscow-sourced memorandum created opposition research on Trump, and the presidential campaign dictates the debate about politics and reporters in Washington. Representatives Devin Nunes of California, chairman of the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, signed a subpoena to force a bank to turn over Fusion GPS's financial records, and he wants to know who paid for the dossier. We already know. Hillary and the Hillary-controlled DNC paid for it, which is written now in a series of 18 memos by Christopher Steele. He relied almost exclusively on unidentified Kremlin sources. The Russians gave the phony dossier. Now the question is, did the phony dossier, was that used in a FISA court to get a warrant against Donald Trump? And was any of the information they got from the warrant? In other words, this is bought and paid for Clinton lies to manipulate, just like she rigged the primary. She was trying to rig the general election. Just like she rigged the email server scandal with Loretta Lynch and James Comey and the meeting on the tarmac, and Comey writes an exoneration letter before he does his investigation. Everything with the Clintons is fixed. So what they're asking here for is Fusion went to federal court. They don't want their financial records let go. But the law firm Perkins Coie LLP, whose partners was Mark Elias, I kept telling you, pay attention to this guy's name, is the Clintons' campaign general counsel. This is the guy that funneled the money. He intervened in this particular case, filed a letter acknowledging it paid Fusion GPS for the dossier on behalf of Democrats. The Democrats are Hillary. The Democrats are the DNC. Hillary ran the DNC. Donna Brazile just told us. Fusion and Mr. Nunes then worked out an agreement on access to some of the firm's financial records. But despite all of this happening here, this renewed request for information, for a judge to block the subpoena because Nunes wants the information, but the widened net includes the names of journalists and law firms that Fusion might have paid. This is getting interesting. Quote, it is contrived to substitute for the ridiculous notion that the intervenor, the House committee in this case, can demand documents in an overbroad subpoena from a third party and not explain what it's looking for or why, said a memorandum filed by Fusion GPS's law firm. All right. Now, on the demand for information on the payments to journalists, Fusion cited First Amendment protection. Who are they protecting? And confidentiality. It didn't deny they might have paid journalists. That's an unanswered question. This is a great report by Rowan Scarborough. And they are not pertinent, as they're not related to Russia or Donald Trump, Fusion is arguing. Oh, yes, it is. Did some of the information from the phony paid-for dossier paid for by Clinton and the Democrats, was that the foundation and the basis for the FISA warrant? Oh, yes, it would be. In attempting to justify the overbroad subpoena, it goes on to say, earlier they could have, but of course, Anyway, so now in the court battle, Mr. Nunes, Fusion has likened itself to a group of journalists with all associated rights. They're not journalists. They're op diggers, op research diggers. And frankly, it's fraudulent at that. The Fusion GPS dossier was filled with lies, filled with misinformation, filled with propaganda, disinformation, if you're talking about, what's happening in an election. Steele dossier, this is getting interesting. Fusion was briefed a number of Washington reporters of Mr. Steele's unverified assertions, has said it is not the source of BuzzFeed's copy. Really? Okay, well, let's find out who was. As you might imagine, if you're an online storage company, to have the accusation that you're a, FSB agent, former KGB, now FSB, you're essentially co-opted by the FSB and you're launching hacking against the Democratic Party, doesn't it do wonders for your business? One of the attorneys argued. I'm telling you, this is all going to blow wide open. Whoa, Dan, hang on a second. Is that a real tattoo? Is that real? When did you get that? What were you Were you drinking? What did you do?
He just rolled up his sleeve, and I was like, "Oh my God!"
I can't see it. There's a woman's face on it. It looks like.
Yeah. Oh, he can't hear. I'll give you my headphones. Hold on.
All right. It looks like there's a woman's.
The mic is on.
It looks like there's a woman's face on it. And what is that? What did you just put on your arm? No. You got to talk into the mic. This is radio.
This is a depiction of my mother.
Now you make me feel like a dog. Thank you very much. Now I feel like crap. It looks like a model. Well, I'm sorry.
No, it came out looking like Amy, who you've met, which, I lived with her my whole life. Now I got to live with her for eternity.
Did you just get this today?
Last Thursday.
And it looks like angel wings. Am I right?
Yeah, so it's an angel. It's my mother.
Your mom, the
an
angel?
angel holding the two
She had to put up
grandkids.
with your crap. She absolutely was an angel. Sorry.
Then it's getting colored in a month.
Wow. How much did it hurt?
It hurt like am I on radio?
Yeah, it did. You're on radio. This is radio.
It
wow.
hurt.
How old are you?
Huh? I'm your age.
Are you going through a midlife crisis?
Yes, kind of.
Yeah, obviously. How old were you when you? I'm not trying to be known. How long? Because I lost my parents when 22 years ago.
My mother died 20 years ago when my oldest was born. So the whole story is my two older brothers, all their grandkids. My mother got a lot of time with the older kids,
right?
And she didn't get time with
the
my
younger
two
ones.
Kids.
Yeah.
So these glowing orbs are depictions of my kids, and the angel's my mom.
My dad didn't get to see either of my kids. My mother got to see my son just a little bit. That was it.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, no.
No.
Dude, you're freaking me out. This is midlife crisis. What? You getting a Harley tomorrow too, or what?
Oh well, your new sponsor is going to be Untuck It, so I can wear cool shirts.
By the way,
have a cool tattoo,
did you see what shirt I'm wearing today? I'm wearing Untuck It.
We're going to get that.
That's correct. Black.
Yeah.
Oh. All right. Now that we wasted all the time, I do have a good show coming up here today.
When are you getting your tattoo?
When you get yours. Tell me when you're getting yours. Nigel Farage when we get back. Chris Kobach is going to join us also coming up today. Greta Van Susteren stopping by. Ed Gillespie stopping by. So we got a busy day. 800-941-SEAN is our number. Listen, with all the recent credit card bureau, remember the credit bureau breach, the common question people are saying, because millions are impacted by this as well, should I freeze my credit? Here's the problem with that. Well, freezing it is not going to protect you against identity fraud and the threats arising from this data breach. Sorry, those hackers still have access to your social security numbers, your birth dates, unspecified amounts of driver's license numbers. And by the way, they can use that type of information to ruin your name, your reputation, rob your bank account, your retirement accounts blind. Look, this day and age, this is a real threat. This is the number one crime. And it's happening a lot. Sign up for LifeLock.com today. They have proprietary technology to detect a wide range of identity threats. They alert you if your information is used. And if you have a problem, their agents fix it. You can't prevent all identity theft, monitor every single transaction. But the biggest, the best, and the most helpful, and the ones with the best technology is LifeLock.com. Go to 1-800, call 1-800-LifeLock or go to LifeLock.com. Mention my name, Hannity. You get a 10% discount. LifeLock.com, 1-800-LifeLock. And protect your name, your finances, your reputation, and your retirement. This is an interesting story in the Washington Examiner. I don't know what's happening. Crazy Uncle Joe is back in the news, Joe Biden. Today he announced that Barack Obama wanted to, quote, appoint me to be president.
You cannot go to a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent. I'm not joking.
Anyway, Biden said that Obama told him in 2014 he would have made him president if he had the ability to appoint a successor. That's in his new book, Promise Me, Dad, in which Biden tackles on his decision not to run for president. And while explaining events that led up to his son's death, which is sad, Biden said Obama would have made him president if he could. We were walking after a lunch, and he said, Joe, if I had the power of appointment, I'd appoint you president. All right. Really? Can we pat ourselves on the back just a little bit more? You're so great, Joe. We love you. Oh, yeah, I would appoint you president of my local ROTC.
People love Tate Trump. You mentioned that in a conversation. Oh, my goodness. But you know what? I'm glad I'm on side. I stick with the winners. I backed him from the start. You just got to take one look at this guy. Even in the early primaries, he's made by God to do this job. He's smart. He's like, have you ever had a problem with your car and there's a mechanic, you've got a mechanic friend comes around, tweaks a few things. He says, no, you've got to sort this, you've got to sort that, you've got to do that. And America is undergoing a reboot. And he's got the brains to do it. And
do you know what, Ben? Do you know what,
Ben?
Ben?
He's got the people around him to do it.
What he's got is instinct. He has the most incredible instinct. As somebody who's a supporter and wishes him well, when I saw him take on the NFL and these players that for the national anthem were going down on the knee, I thought to myself, what on earth is he doing? Taking on yet another fight. Surely he's got enough on his plate as it is. Here we are 6 weeks in. Big majority of the country agree with him completely. TV ratings for NFL have gone down because too many of these players are taking the knee and not standing for the national anthem. And big advertisers like Papa John's announced in the last few days that they're withdrawing some of their funding. So, Ben, the one thing he's got going for him is the most incredible instinct.
All right, that, of course, was Nigel Farage. Here we are 1 year later. We're 1 day away from Donald Trump's big victory, and that would be tomorrow. Now, it's one of those days you're going to remember where you were. And I remember where I was. I was on my bed with multiple TVs, I set everything up for election night. And I remember that, and all I do is I'm looking at, all right, I've got all of the, Board of Electors locked into my computer, and I'm going from one site to the other site. Where are we in Broward County, West Palm? Where are we in Southwest Florida, the Panhandle, which closes an hour earlier? Cuyahoga County in Ohio is a big county. What was it in 2012? What was it in 2008? What do we need to carry in the strong areas? What do you need to look for in terms of turnout in heavily Democratic areas? Hamilton County and in Ohio also plays a big part. You're just going back and forth, going all through the state of North Carolina. And so, and I'm watching the night everybody starts out because all these news anchors, they all get the exit polls at 5:15 every day. I got them on election day. And I could tell the story now, but that day I called President Trump. He hadn't been briefed on them yet. And I said, okay, you're about to get bad news. Let me tell you a story. And I told him the story on this program in 2004 that Dick Cheney gets off the plane. He had been out campaigning. He gets off the plane. The exit polls showed by far that John Kerry was going to be the next president of the United States. And the exit polls could not have, as we all know, been more wrong. And Dick Cheney called this radio program at 5:35. This year, if you remember, last year, or in 2016, then we had Don Jr. call in the last few minutes of the show on Election Day. Anyway, so I go home and I do my usual thing, and I'm watching all the anchors, and the anchors are all happy and giddy because they think they've got this. They think Hillary won. It's like they can't contain their excitement. And so they take the information that they get privately that they're not supposed to talk about. They only talk about certain aspects of what the exit polls are actually showing. And so they start talking like they're the smartest Well, I think what's going to happen here is you're going to see in this exit poll, Trump lost everything. He lost Florida. He lost Virginia. He lost North Carolina. He lost Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. It was a wipeout. It was like the worst case scenario. And so I told Trump at that time, I said, I'm telling you, you got to trust me here. When they come in and they've got a sour look on their face, just tell them I already know. Don't trust the exit polls. And let's see what happens. And the next time I talked to him, I said, I think you're going to be the next president. And the third call that night was, Mr. President, congratulations. And that was it. And that was long before any network had called it. I knew it was over. there were a few of us that believed, not many. And then I'll just say one more thing, then we'll invite Nigel Farage on here. I'll never forget, Fox, I never want to work election night. And my boss at the time, Bill Shine, is like, you got to work this election. I said, I tried it before. Some people don't even want me there because they don't like opinion, which is fine with me. And I said, and I only get 5 minutes of time. I'm not wasting my night for 5 minutes on the air. It's not worth it. And then he goes, all right, go to your studio down the block. I have a studio down the block from my house. And he goes, and I go, I can't. I'm on my fourth beer. I said, I can't. I can't drive, number one. Number two, I'm not going to look good and I'm not going to make any sense. He goes, get on the phone right now. Call in. And I called in and I explained what the Forgotten Man, Forgotten Woman election was all about. And I didn't stop talking. I think I want to get a copy of it. I went on and on and on and on and on. I was the most upbeat person the entire night in the media. The only one. It was hilarious. Anyway, Nigel Farage, who you just heard in that last tape, he was one of the people that believed. How could so many be so wrong? That's the biggest question. I just don't think they had their eyes open. Like 2008, you can look back in retrospect, and it was obvious John McCain had no shot. You know, I think Mitt Romney had a shot until he blew the second and third debates. But this was obvious what was coming here. How are you, sir?
I'm very well indeed, Sean. Good afternoon.
Good. I mean, you were one of the few. You saw what I saw. You saw the crowds. You were out on the road with him. You saw.
Yep.
I mean, the crowd size, people say, well, you can't tell by crowds. Well, Hillary had nobody showing up at her events, and a ton of people were showing up at Trump events, and you could see it.
Yeah.
It just opened your eyes.
Well, I could. I went to Mississippi in the middle of August, and I was very honored to share the stage with Donald Trump and to say to those people, don't listen to the opinion pollsters, don't listen to mainstream media, don't listen to those who seek to demoralize you. Believe in yourselves, believe you can beat the establishment. And the remarkable thing about the evening of November the 8th was I'd seen this before. I'd seen the night of Brexit. I'd seen the celebrations. The Remain side have won. It's all over. It's going to be a humiliation for Farage and the Leavers. And it was twice in 1 year that the establishment got it completely and utterly wrong. And, you know, we're a year on from those historic seismic events. They still haven't worked it out, have they?
How is that possible? How has Brexit not happened?
Oh, well, Brexit, we voted for it. The problem we've got is that the management of Brexit is back in the hands of the very people that opposed it. And that is the really big difficulty that we've got. However, the one piece of good news I can give you is that a year and a bit on, public opinion now for Brexit is much, much stronger than it was on June 23rd, 2016. That day we got 52%. The recent opinion polls now show that 70% of the public want this to happen. So the politicians can dilly and dally, they can stretch it out, but ultimately, believe me, force of public opinion is going to make it happen.
You know, in spite of Donald Trump, and it's election day in America today. I mean, you have the biggest race of the Virginia's governor's races going on, and you got a race in New Jersey. But, you know, I look at the Republican Party with nothing but contempt and disdain. They can't get the simplest promises fulfilled. They're in disarray. They have no vision. They're a shadow of their former self. They have no identity anymore. I don't know if you're watching what's happening here, but they never had any intention of repealing and replacing Obamacare. They were just words and show votes. And I think the people are disgusted with both parties. And I think there's going to be further change coming in this country. And I think the people are fed up, and these politicians, you know, better be put on notice that promises mean things to people.
Well, don't you think, Sean, that Alabama was perhaps the wake-up call within the Republican Party?
No, I don't.
One thing about
No, I don't. I think they're too stupid to wake up from that call. I mean, we're now debating the tax reform bill, and because they're so sensitive and don't want to be criticized in any way, you can't get a Republican to go out. They're raising taxes, quote, on the rich. It's the opposite of conservative supply side Reagan economics. They're doing good on the corporate side of things, but not on they don't want to be told. They're getting accused of it anyway, even though it's not true. Oh, you're giving tax cuts to the rich. Well, only 20% of Americans pay federal income tax. 50% pay nothing. So how do you cut taxes if nobody pays?
No. Well, of course you can't. And you're quite right about supply-side reform, because you had it with Reagan. And, of course, don't forget, we had exactly the same with Thatcher. When Thatcher came to power, top-rate income tax in 1979 in the UK was 80%. 43%. I mean, can you believe it?
Crazy.
And she cut it. Yeah, and she cut it to 40%. And, of course, what happened with the Laffer curve and everything else is that revenues went up, not down. Now, look, I do understand your reservations about this current tax proposal, but I would say this, that if they can get the corporate side of this through, that is going to be revolutionary, because that is going to bring literally, hundreds of billions of dollars potentially back into America.
Yeah, listen, I believe that on the corporate rate, going to 20%, that makes us competitive. I prefer it lower. Repatriation at 10%, there are trillions and trillions of dollars parked overseas. That's going to be good for the forgotten men and women. They can invest that money in factories and in manufacturing centers, and America can be competitive again. The president just getting rid of these burdensome regulations on business has already resulted in massive economic growth. I mean, we have now job cuts at a 2-decade low. We now have created, under Trump, over 1 million jobs, 235,000 just in October, according to ADP. Even the Washington Post is saying this is not a tax cuts for the rich in any way. You've got a 7-year low of Americans on food stamps. You got a 7-year high in terms of the number of Americans participating in the labor force. And on top of that, home sales have hit the fastest pace they've had in 30 years. Consumer confidence at a 17-year high. The Atlanta Fed a week ago was forecasting 4.5% GDP for the fourth quarter, and the Republican Congress hasn't even done anything yet.
Yeah, I mean, look, the signs are fantastic. The Dow's at a high. Economic confidence is good. I mean, all of that is good. But, the reason I mentioned Alabama earlier, and maybe you're right, maybe there are more lessons to be learned, is that ultimately, it is the establishment, just as it's the establishment in the Conservative Party who are delaying Brexit, it is the establishment within the Republican Party that are stopping Trump from putting through the agenda, the ticket on which he was elected. And I just think, Sean, given where we are, there could be a lot more Alabamas to come.
I think it's coming. All right, Nigel Farage, great to talk to you, my friend, and always appreciate you being on the show. You're always welcome. 800-941-SEAN, toll-free telephone number. We'll continue. All right, as we continue, Sean Hannity Show. Let's get to the phones here. A lot of you being very, very patient. George is in Biloxi, Mississippi. George, hi. How are you? Welcome to the show.
Hey, Sean. How are you?
I'm good, sir. What's happening?
Just want to let you know we appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate you. Thank you. Listen, we're going to make the country great again one way or the other. We're just going to have to get rid of some of these people.
That's all. It's time to drain the swamp.
Drain the swamp. Absolutely. What's going on?
Hey, well, look, I was thinking all these people that were defrauded by Bernie Sanders, if he knew that he didn't have a chance of winning, and he asked these people for money.
Listen, Bernie Sanders, to me, sold his soul here. Bernie Sanders knew he was cheated, knew it was rigged, knew he was robbed, and he still went out there and supported Hillary. He didn't tell the truth.
And asked you for your small donations of $23 or something like that.
Yep.
$231 million worth of small donations.
It's despicable. None of these people had character. And Donna Brazile told she didn't need to know about the dossier. I'm like, really? Look, there is more coming from this. How do I say this and not give out too much information? It's obvious to me Donna knows a lot more than she's saying.
And how is it that...
It's obvious to me that Donna has fired a major shot across the Democratic Party's bow, and she, in her own way, is trying to get rid of corruption. She could have, in my opinion, gone further, if that makes sense.
I concur, and I believe she probably had a guilty conscience about it, and I hope she feels better.
No, they're pounding the crap out of her. She's, they just all now take her down. Doesn't matter. She spent decades of her life in Democratic politics. James, Riverside, California. James, you're next. Sean Hannity Show. What's going on?
Hey, Sean. Good to talk with you.
Yes, sir.
I'll try and keep this short. I went to go see your movie a couple weeks ago in my town.
Yeah.
And took my family of 6, and we all enjoyed it. And the part that resonated with me was how the family started looking towards him as he was going through his change. So that resonated with me.
As I said, it takes you on an emotional roller coaster. Did you cry? And you can be honest. A lot of guys have admitted it.
I got teary-eyed a couple times, yes.
And how about the rest of the theater? Did they cry there?
I don't know. I was in the front row.
All right. Well, you can hear sniffling, You can just turn around and hear it.
I was too in the movie to even pay attention, but all the seats were filled except for 2.
Listen, I'm blown away by the reaction. It's exactly what I wanted to produce. Hollywood is full of sleaze, formulaic sex, violence, cartoon movies, action figure movies. Jennifer Aniston falls in love, falls out of love, falls in love with the next guy, falls out of love with the next guy. I mean, there's no movies that actually touch your intellectual side that really mirror real life. It's very contemporary, and then also touch your heart, your emotions, and your soul. That's why I did this. It wasn't because it's fun. I'll tell you that. There's nothing fun about making a movie. But I just felt so disgusted and fed up. I said, you know what, I'm gonna take a chance here. And the good news is there's going to be more theaters next weekend. And just go to Hannity.com for updates. And it's only because you made it successful. We are now the 44th highest after only 2 weeks, no studio help. 44th all-time Christian movie, and we've only been out 2 weeks. It's amazing, actually. It was honestly, it was nothing short of a miracle. And nobody gave this movie a shot. But it's done its job, and I'm happy. And for those that haven't seen it, I hope you go see it. We'll have a lot more theaters this weekend. Quick break, right back. We'll continue. Also coming up, Ed Gillespie running in Virginia. He's next. Greta Van Susteren, Chris Kobach, all stopping by on the big race today in the Commonwealth of Virginia, as Ed Gillespie now has been able to close and narrow the gap. We got a very, very close race. Tough state for any Republican to win, and he has been on the precipice of winning before. And Ed Gillespie is with us. How are you? How are you feeling about today?
I feel good, Sean. I feel like we have a lot of momentum in the home stretch here, and we're peaking on Election Day, which is what you need to do. And our voters are enthusiastic and excited. And, the stakes couldn't be higher in Virginia, and the choices couldn't be clearer. And our folks are coming out, and I can feel a win in the making here today. I really can. I've been working precincts all day, hitting voters up as they go in to vote. I'll be there at 7 o'clock tonight, getting every last vote that I can.
I know the last time that you ran, it got to be such a close race. The polls had you losing by double digits. So nobody can go by the polls in the Commonwealth of Virginia, just like on Election Day last year, a year ago tomorrow. The exit polls had Donald Trump winning nothing, pretty much. And they turned out to be wrong. So you've lived through that yourself, and I think you would have gotten a lot more support had the polls been a little closer last time. And I think people learned that lesson. You seem to have gotten a lot of support in spite of what has been a vicious negative campaign against you.
Well, you're right on both counts, Sean. And first of all, these public polls, the media polls, the Washington Post and the universities, these polls are not designed to gauge the outcome of an election. They are designed to affect the outcome of an election. And they're designed to discourage conservative voters from going out and voting. But you know what? We've seen it too many times now, and we're onto that trick. And we just don't fall for it anymore. And so our voters know that we've got to be out there, that this is going to be a close race. Our people have to turn out and vote if we're going to get Virginia growing again. And you're right. The tactics of the left in this campaign have been despicable. That ad was not just a low, and the ad I'm talking about, where they portrayed my supporters as trying to hunt down young children. Really, really vile stuff. And, that was not just an attack on my supporters, by the way. That was an attack on all good, decent, hardworking Virginians who want to have an honest, civil debate about the issues that we face here in Virginia, and really backfired. That people reject that kind of rhetoric.
Look, I think at the end of the day, this is a close race. And look, it's what, 440 here on the East Coast. And I'd say to anybody listening to my voice, we're all over Virginia, that you got to get out and vote. And especially if you're in different places of Virginia, if you're in the more southern part, if you're in Norfolk, if you're in any of these areas, you got to know that there's a part of northern Virginia that has been taken over by the deep state left. And that has resulted in a very tough race anytime for any Republican. Where do you stand on what is happening in Washington? You've got an establishment that seems incapable of keeping their promises. You got a president that even a lot of these establishment figures don't like. What is your opinion about the battle that's going on there?
Well, I'm hoping that we get tax relief and they get that done, Sean. But one of the things I've come to realize running for governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia, frankly, is we can't count on Washington, D.C. to solve our problems. And frankly, we shouldn't. If we talk about tax relief, I've got a plan to cut our taxes 10% across the board in our individual income tax rates. They've not been cut in 45 years, and it is time for them to come down and for hardworking Virginians to keep more of our dollars to spend as we see fit. And the result of that would not just be higher take-home pay for Virginians who have had stagnant wages for way too long. It would also result in a 25% increase in job creation here. I'm not going to wait for Congress to do something on allowing us to compete across state lines. I'm going to work with governors in surrounding states for our insurance markets and open them up to competition across state lines so that we can have more insurance competition here in Virginia from insurers who are in, Maryland.
By the way, that was the best executive. That was the best executive order the president signed when he allows people that can literally form associations, and they too, like big corporations, they can buy across state lines. They have all sorts of options. They have the buying power of a big group. That would mean that, just catastrophic plans would be legal again. And there's so many different options that would open up for people in the Commonwealth and around the country.
And Sean, that competition would bring down prices for consumers. That's good for consumers. So I'm going to do that on my own and work with my General Assembly to get that done when I get elected, hopefully today. And, look, we have got to ban sanctuary cities in the Commonwealth of Virginia. That's a clear choice between me and my opponent. We need more parental control over our children's education. I can do all these things working with the General Assembly that is in Republican control here in Virginia. And that's what voters are focused on in Virginia. That's why my message is resonating everywhere. And by the way, I'm from Northern Virginia, and I'm going to do very well in Northern Virginia. There's a lot of voters there, and I know that, we're in the minority, as Republicans in Northern Virginia, but there are a lot of us, and we're going to be turning out in big, big numbers today because that message resonates everywhere. And people also want to know, about what are you going to do about traffic? And I've got plans for transportation that would ease traffic congestion. And, we pay high taxes in Northern Virginia. That message resonates very well there, too. So I feel good about the entire Commonwealth. I think we're going to perform very, very well all across Virginia, and I've been campaigning all across Virginia.
Well, I also got to give you some credit.
7 o'clock tonight.
I mean, unlike a lot of Republicans, you're embracing the agenda of the president in many ways. And I know that Steve Bannon said, if you look at Virginia, you see the grassroots, they're fired up, and they're coming out to embrace you because you, unlike other people, are saying we need to fix the country, and you're not playing personal, bitter politics. And I think solving people's problems is the antidote to great politics. Good policies and fighting for people, the forgotten men and women, is going to end up getting you in office and keeping you in office. Well, what's your relationship with the president like?
Well, look, the president, I don't know the president, to be honest with you, but I appreciate his support. And it's very important for a governor of Virginia to have a good relationship with the president.
Yeah, I think we're losing Ed Gillespie. Anyway, that's all right. Ed Gillespie, if you're in Virginia, you definitely want to get on out and vote. You still have a couple of hours. Polls close, I think, at 7. And so if you haven't voted yet, this matters for your Commonwealth, for your state. 800-941-SEAN is a toll-free telephone number. Joe is in New York City, the all-new AM 710 WOR, the talk of New York, New Jersey, and Long Island. What's happening?
Hey, Sean, how you doing?
I'm good, sir.
I want to let you know I'm a former lieutenant commander from the NYPD.
God bless you. Thank you, sir, for what you do.
Reiterate what you said yesterday, pal, that you are the biggest supporter of law enforcement, and not just in New York, but all over the nation. And we really appreciate it. And I have to tell you, sometimes when the guys are listening to your show, you would think that you scored the final touchdown for Notre Dame or something. The way they cheer you on, it's just amazing. So,
can I just say, I don't know. How did we ever get to the point, Joe? I was raised. I remember in kindergarten. Don't laugh at me here. That cops and firemen would come, and I looked at them in awe. I came very close to signing on to the NYPD when I was 19 years old. I had taken the test. I took the physical. I took the psychological. Got a 99 on the test, and I was appointed to the academy. And for whatever reason, God works in mysterious ways. I just said, I'm maybe not Sean, now. I would have been retired for 16 years.
Great path because you do a lot more for us on your end than you know. But I have to tell you, I'm a legacy. I mean, my dad was a cop. I had his shield number, and I have to tell you, it's New York has become a cesspool of ignorance.
Sad, isn't it?
And from the politicians all the way down the line, and it's just a lack of respect all the way around. And, you know, the current mayor, he doesn't deserve the respect because he doesn't give the respect. You know, I have to go back to Rudy Giuliani's time. Rudy Giuliani was a great mayor. All right, a lot of people didn't like him because they said he was, headstrong in certain areas and everything. But look what he did for the city. And I have to tell you, if you really want to see it, look at Commissioner Bratton under Giuliani and then look at Commissioner Bratton under the current mayor. All right, two different people. All right, and that's where we lose it. When people think that they can circumvent the cops and when they think that everything is about getting down on the cops, then that's what happens. And you lose your first line of defense, not only here in New York, but across the United States, through Ferguson, through everything that you mentioned. All right, it's a round-robin effect, and it's actually starting to come a little ways.
We saw on Halloween when I won't say how I get there. I go from radio to TV, and I'm walking into the Fox building, and there are guys on the NYPD terrorism task force, and they got serious rifles with them. I didn't ask what it was. And I just stopped and I talked to these guys, awesome guys. And how did we get to the point where it's okay for people that say, or group that says, what do we want dead cops? When do we want them now? And pigs in a blanket fry them like bacon. Or people forget what happened on Halloween. They forget 9/11/01. I'm just using big examples. And they won't even give the police the benefit of the doubt or the presumption of innocence before they render them guilty in both the media and in the general public. And it's unbelievable to me. It's unbelievable because they're the first people you're going to want when your ass is in trouble. First people.
Exactly. And you know where it started? It started when Obama took office. All right. Because when they saw the president not supporting the police and going against them in every shape and form that he could. I mean, sending Holder out to do his, the little legwork for him. I mean, he would send
the Cambridge police acted stupidly because his friend had an issue with the cops. Or that, he was, I would be jumping in and being wrong on Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman, being wrong in Ferguson, wrong in, these high-profile racial cases, and then ignoring his home city. 18,000 shootings in the last 6 years of his presidency. Thousands dead.
Exactly.
He does nothing there.
And that's the greatest example. And I've said it a million times. And when you had the people like Gary McCarthy that was in there that could have made a difference, they went against him as well because his ways, the old Comstat ways in New York and the way Rudy Giuliani set it up over here in New York went worldwide, not just within our country. It went worldwide because it was such a successful program.
I was on the air at the time, a local radio host here in New York, and I'm telling you, it was like Rudy Giuliani pulling teeth, called every name in the book, and he ends up taking the murder rate from, nearly 3,000 down to 500. And saving lives by good policing. Listen, I have to run. I could talk to you, Joe, all day. All my best to your buddies and all of those that protect and serve our interests every day that don't get the respect they deserve. And it's nauseating to me, frankly. We should be, it's like when people put their lives on the line for you, how about being appreciative? How about saying thank you? How about saying, hi, officer? When I get pulled over, first thing I do, I put my hands outside the window. Next thing I do, hi, officer. I have a legal loaded weapon in the car. First thing I tell them if I have it with me. Next thing I do, I say, would you like me to step out of the car and show you my license and registration? What do you want me to do? That's what I do. And in almost every case, they're so professional. Now, that's a moment where you're saying to them, this is danger. But I'm giving them a heads up. My hands are in front of them. I either put them on the dashboard so that he can see them, or I put them outside the window. And I say, yes, sir. No, sir. I'm sorry if I was speeding, sir. Not that I ever speed. I've gotten so good with that. I don't even get pulled over anymore because I just don't. When I was younger, I had a heavy foot. Oh, constantly getting tickets. And then I just stopped. I said, you know what? I don't want to hurt anybody. I'm not racing to any place. I don't have to get there that soon. Unless I'm racing to a tennis tournament, I left late, which occasionally happens. Occasionally, not much. All right, 800-941-SEAN is our number. All right, news roundup, information overload coming next. Jan is in Auburn, Alabama. What's going on, Jan? How are you?
How are you? It's an honor to speak with you. My question is really twofold. First of all, how in the world, I'm astonished at the amount of loyalty that the Clintons have built over the years. And I'm wondering if Donna Brazile, I mean, obviously everybody's watching their own back, if she might be the first shoe to fall or if she's going to be the only one. And the second part of my question is, with the Uranium One deal, did America receive any payment at all for that uranium, or did the Clintons only receive
nothing
money from that?
Nobody has ever said America's gotten anything out of that deal. Nothing. Zip. Nothing.
She stole it from us. Our schools aren't better. Our military wasn't funded. She is a thief that stole uranium from America.
It's even
and
worse
sold
than
it
that.
to the Russians.
She sold out our national security. She got a huge back end on it. And as I was talking about earlier in the program, there are so many broken laws here. Everything, as it relates to the dossier scandal, the Uranium One scandal, the email scandal. There's so many felonies. If we have equal justice under the law, she's going to get arrested and put in jail. Thank you. Appreciate it. Jan, call back again. 800-941-SEAN, our number.
Look, I support the general thrust of what you and certainly Teslin are saying. People were disenfranchised. But I want to go a step further tonight. The entire Democratic Party stinks from the head down. The whole process, everyone has really stain on their hands. And with this new revelation tonight on the emails that it probably involved gross negligence, it strengthens my call and that of others for a special prosecutor to look at that, Comey, the gross negligence, to look at the email deal more generally, to look at Uranium One, the dossier, all of it. Because at this point, what we know is getting more and more troubling. I say this as a loyal Democrat. I know Teslin's a loyal Democrat. But as she said, and I would say, this is not partisan. This is about preserving our democracy.
You know that this book is being used against the party.
Say it.
Well, I'm trying to say it. Against against everybody. So people are upset, and you understand. So explain why you didn't realize people would take the idea of Hillary bailing out the party years before or whenever she did it as something that was bad and robbed Bernie of his ability to be president. I mean, that's the message that is being put out.
Right.
In your name.
Well, first of all, I never used the word rigged in my book. I said that I used the word cancer, and that I was uncomfortable with the cancer that I found when I became chair. Look, I was an officer. I didn't know how deeply in debt our party was, okay? And when I learned that Hillary was bailing us out, I want to call her Secretary Hillary Clinton, but I also know as Hillary because I have great affection and respect for her. When I learned that Hillary was bailing our party out, giving us $3.5 million a month to keep us floating, I appreciated that. But what I wanted control over, Whoopi, was that if I raise $1.50. I wanted to spend my money without asking permission.
There are a lot of questions about this Russian dossier, and there evidence that has come out that the DNC helped fund it. Did you know that was happening, and were you surprised to hear it if you did?
I asked one question on November 4th, and I was told that I did not need to know, and so no, I did not know, because I did not control my money.
But you're waxing poetic a lot up here about Russia and Russia's involvement in the election, which is deeply important to me. But when you see that the DNC was funding it, and funding a foreign adversary.
So, Megan, you know campaigns. So the line item is called legal. The line item is called research. The line item, if you ask me today, because I have a list of all of the DNC consultants, do I see Fusion GPS? No. But if you ask me, was this a question that came up during my tenure as chair? It did on November 4th.
Do you think it's wrong? Do you think it sets a bad precedence?
To do legal, to do research
for opposition research.
I was not involved in the contract, and I don't know.
Republicans.
I did not. Megan. I was not involved in the hiring of this firm. I did not know about the existence of this contract. But in terms of opposition research, people go after things that I must tell you in America, they go after dirt. When they go after dirt, you saw what Mr. Trump Jr. did. But no, I did not go after it.
But just do you think it's wrong to go to Russia to ask for opposition research?
You're asking me about the dossier and how it was compiled. I don't know how it was compiled. I don't know who went after it, Megan.
All right, that was on The View today. Oh, man, pretty blockbuster stuff. I was told I didn't need to know any of this. And she goes, she actually had used the word rigged, which, by the way, as somebody who's authored a book, let me tell you, by the time you finish your book and it actually gets published, you don't even remember it. And I know it sounds weird, but it's true because it becomes such a painful act to be out there writing books. Speaking of which, my friend and colleague Greta Van Susteren has a new book out, Everything You Need to Know About Social Media Without Having to Call a Kid. I want to talk about, you know what's funny about that is I have to ask my daughter to download all of my apps. Well, that's not funny. I don't think that's so. Why are you mocking me?
Oh, are you listening to me, Sean?
Yes, of course. How are you?
Oh, I'd say, of course I'm laughing at you, but you know what? You're like everybody else. I mean, that's the problem. You know why I wrote this book is because I thought I was asking a 25-year-old a rather sophisticated question, one of my nieces, about Instagram. And I asked her the question, and her response was, seriously? And I said, yes, I mean seriously. She said, you don't know that? I said, actually, I don't know that. And I used to change her diapers, so be nice to me.
No, it definitely, it's amazing what they can do. I mean, my son has been so crafty and so tricky. You know, for example, he would play his game a lot, and he likes like Madden football, for example. And the smart-ass son that he is, so he knew every once in a while if I was getting sick and tired of him playing too much, I'd go in there and I'd grab the disc and I'd take it away, and I thought I was ending his game. And then and he didn't get mad because he had the whole thing downloaded in the machine, the whole thing.
Yeah, of course. Of course, but see, that's what the interesting thing about my book. People say, "Who's it for?" And I say, "It's for everybody over 40 who thinks that he knows everything about social media, or has any questions, or wants to get started, and or just wants to understand it." It's also for everybody under the age of 40 who's sick and tired of answering questions to those of us over the age of 40. So, and it's less than $15. You can't go wrong.
You really can't go wrong. I actually, when I saw the title, I said, "This is hilarious." And by the way, it is a timely book and one that is necessary and needed for people like me. How have you been lately? I know you spent a little time over at MSNBC. We miss you at Fox. How did that work out there?
How did that work out for me? Well, I got fired, but let me say this.
No. I didn't mean that. I didn't mean it that way. I mean, I'm asking in a nice way. What happened?
No,
I got fired. You jerk. Yeah.
No. I actually don't know what happened. If it's not for a personal reason, I have a absolutely perfect personnel file. The only thing in it is my contract. It's not for the ratings because my show was up 94% overall from the show I replaced a year earlier and 92% in the demo. And by the way, I replaced Mark Halperin's show. And no one's ever suggested I did anything wrong, any bad behavior, and nobody ever accused me of being unfair or not getting the facts right. So the question is, why did I get fired? I have my suspicions. I'd love to know that.
I think I can tell you. Look, you've always been, and I've known you for years, and obviously everybody on TV and radio has different personalities. Everybody does it differently. But I always looked at you and your show as the curious show. You would ask questions and you'd let people answer the questions. I always loved that about your show. Now, I obviously have stronger political opinions, but your show provides a valuable service by saying, okay, well, explain this to me. Explain that to me. I mean, and as a lawyer, you always had these deep, penetrating questions, and you weren't asking with any malice or any agenda, and then people would answer or duck or dodge, and if they tried to dodge, you usually go in 2 or 3 more times, and, but I never got the sense where you are politically. I honestly don't know where you stand politically.
It depends on the issue where I am politically. But as for your question about
I think they didn't want anybody that wasn't hardcore conspiracy theory left wing. There's my answer.
Well, but the thing is, I was no surprise when they hired me. I've been in the business 25 years. I kept my side of the bargain, and the only thing that I don't like is the fact that they let the narrative out there that it was somehow the ratings, but I had less than 6 months and my ratings were up 94% over the show that I replaced, when it just simply is not true. That it was the ratings, and they let that narrative go out there. The show was a successful one. Viewers liked it. I still get emails they liked it, and I wanted them to be fair to me. I'll let the chips fall as they may, but they ought to be fair to me. And so I'd love to know why I got fired.
You know, this business that we're in, more than people know, can really suck. I mean, it has a dark side.
It's fun, though.
You know, well, we're very blessed. You and I have discussed this many times together. I mean, it's a blessing to do it, but I don't think people understand how much work goes into like 3 hours of radio and an hour of TV and grinding it out every day. But it's my honor to do it. It really is. And like every other business, it's a service business. I mean, I did all those, blue-collar jobs all my life, and nobody said, thank you, can I have your autograph? I don't view it as any different except that we're in the public eye. And in that sense, that you lose your anonymity, which I think a lot of people would probably like to keep their anonymity. But, I'm sorry that happened, but I know you. You can do whatever you want. You'll write your own ticket. I know you.
Sean, as long as I go out of a job, and I did go out of the job this way, is with my head high, in that I always did my best, always tried to be fair. I took the job very seriously, getting the facts for the American people. I tried to call every fall as I saw it, and frankly, that's why it's so stunning to me, because it wasn't, that.
Greta, you want me to sum it up for you? You did not hate Donald Trump enough. That was your problem. You did not hate Donald Trump.
But you know what the problem is, though, is that that would be very bad, because we're not supposed to tilt the news. We're supposed to be honest.
Okay, have you ever watched that network? They hate Donald Trump 24/7. You were the 1 hour that didn't hate Donald Trump.
My job was always, as I saw this, to be responsible for my hour. To do my very best for the viewers.
I think you know in your heart, and I'm only saying this, I think you know that I'm right.
I'd love to hear from them. No, it's like, I still don't understand. There wasn't one criticism of me, and all of a sudden one day they called me in and fired me.
No, I'm sorry to hear that. I really am, and not even an explanation. Listen, this is like what happens, though.
The explanation they put out there, though, the thing that bothers me is the explanation they put out there is simply not true. Is that
you're too smart an attorney for them to be that stupid. It is all I would say on that front. You're too good an attorney. You are. Yeah, I mean, if they said something that was factually inaccurate, I would imagine that's going to come back and hurt them.
I try to walk out of there with my dignity and realize that, I've been very lucky in this business, had some great jobs and great colleagues. And I see that more as a reflection of others who might not want to be talking about than of me.
Let me move on. I want to press your legal mind here. What do you think of Donna Brazile saying Hillary stole the primary, basically, and had the fix in and rigged it?
All right. First of all, full disclosure, Donna and I are friends. We've been friends for years. I've been listening to Donna's book since it got released today. I'm about 2 hours into it. Actually, I recommend, if you're going to read the book, that you actually download and listen to it, because she reads it herself. Donna is painfully honest. People may disagree with her, but she's painfully honest, and she paints a rather disturbing picture of the DNC and its financial situation. And one way you can look at it is that the Clinton people were scrambling to try to rescue it and avoid the embarrassment that it was going under financially. Or you can look at it the other way, is that the Clinton administration was looking for an opportunity to control it. They did it by controlling the money strings, by bringing a lot of money into the DNC. Take your pick how you want to explain it. If I were Bernie Sanders, I'd be furious. But then again, Bernie Sanders never wanted to be a Democrat. He was always independent.
But it doesn't matter.
Wanted to run for president.
But Donna told him the truth, and he did nothing. I think that.
You know who actually is, in more full disclosure, is that John Cole, my husband, is friends with Martin O'Malley, former governor of Maryland. And that he's the one who should be angry, because in politics, the way that you get your traction is through the debates, and that's how you get name recognition, you get a chance to show yourself off, raise money, and it looked like these are my words, the fix was in that they had a limited number of debates. Debbie Wasserman Schultz was close to Hillary in 2008, and the is in Washington is that they were controlling the number of debates so as to help her.
Unbelievable. And they got the fix was in with the superdelegates and everything that Donna says. All right, stay right there. Greta Van Susteren is with us. Brand new book out, Everything You Need to Know About Social Media Without Having to Call a Kid. Quick break. Right back. We'll continue. All right, as we continue, Greta Van Susteren with us, a brand new book, Everything You Need to Know About Social Media Without Having to Call a Kid. Let me ask you some legal questions. If there are emails that are subpoenaed, 33,000 of them, you know where I'm going.
Right.
And you delete them, acid wash, bleach bit them, and destroy the BlackBerries with hammers, is that a crime?
I think it is, but I'm not sure you have the facts exactly right, as I recall. And I actually said this on the air when I was at the Fox News Channel. Is I think that Congress notified Clinton's
to preserve them
in October that what they wanted them to. I don't know if to preserve, but they want, and then they destroyed them. If I were Hillary Clinton's lawyer at that time, I never would have destroyed them. And I've always thought that the lawyers would be in trouble, in hot water with the bar, because I felt enormously uncomfortable with the fact that, as a lawyer, I never would have destroyed them.
So
once I was notified by Congress.
All right.
I don't know if it's a crime, but I think it's a bar problem.
Isn't it also an obstruction issue? Because, you obviously had the equivalent of Congress telling you to preserve these things. You don't do it, and then you destroy it.
I don't know if you have. I think if the U.S. Attorney's head, I don't think if Congress notifies you it's a necessary obstruction. I don't know. I can tell you one thing. I don't know if it fits, where it fits within a particular statute. I can tell you I'm extremely uncomfortable with the idea because it's deceitful.
What did you think about
effort to hide something?
The gross negligence statute that we see in early writings before Comey had basically exonerated her without even interviewing her or most of the witnesses. And he had used the term gross negligence, which is the legal standard. And we know that the Espionage Act says knowingly and willfully mishandling classified information. I assume that would be putting it on a private server, which she told others in the State Department not to do, and then destroying those things. And we know 5 foreign actors were able to access it. Any of those ring as crimes to you?
When I know you're referring to that the press conference, that there's a press statement that Comey gave, I think it's late June or early July.
He used extreme recklessness. The earlier drafts.
And I'll tell you, I thought that made lawyers look bad because I thought it made no sense the way he was trying to sort of do the gymnastics around that. I don't know what was going on in his mind. I mean, it's just stunning to me the way he handled that. I mean, that is not the way I would have handled it. I don't even know why he made a statement. I don't even know why even the weird thing later when he met with the Attorney General at some point, or she called him and they all wanted to get on the same page to get the right language as to how to refer to it. Well, I mean, there's a lot of explaining that needs to be done here in Washington.
I've got to let you go. Well, not because I want to, but anyway, congratulations on the new book. We're going to post it at Hannity.com. Everything you need to know about social media without having to call a kid. Greta Van Susteren.
One last thing. I miss you, Sean.
We miss you, too. Anyway, we're proud of you. You're doing amazing, and good luck with the book tour. I know you're doing a lot of work with Franklin Graham, which I admire immensely. And
wait till you see my app.
Oh, I can't wait for the app. Great.
The app's going to be fun. That's the tease.
All right. Thanks, Greta. 800-941-SEAN. We'll continue.
I am today starting the process of terminating the diversity lottery program. I'm going to ask Congress to immediately initiate work to get rid of this program. Diversity and diversity lottery. Diversity lottery sounds nice. It's not nice. It's not good. It's not good. It hasn't been good. We've been against it. So we want to immediately work with Congress on the diversity lottery program, on terminating it, getting rid of it. We want a merit-based program where people come into our country based on merit. And we want to get rid of chain migration. This man that came in, or whatever you want to call him, brought in with him other people. And he was the point of contact, the primary point of contact for, and this is preliminarily, 23 people that came in or potentially came in with him. And that's not acceptable. So we want to get rid of chain migration. And we've wanted to do that for a long time. And I've been wanting to do it for a long time. And we'll be asking Congress to start working on it immediately. There are bills already about ending chain migration. And we have a lot of good bills in there. We're being stopped by Democrats because they're obstructionists. And honestly, they don't want to do what's right for our country. We need strength. We need resolve. We have to stop it. So we're going to get rid of this lottery program as soon as possible. He came in through the diversity program, as you know, and we're going to stop that. We're going to, as quickly as possible, get rid of chain migration and go to a merit-based system. Terrorists are constantly seeking to strike our nation, and it will require the unflinching devotion to our law enforcement, homeland security, and intelligence professionals to keep America safe. We will take all necessary steps to protect our people and our communities and to protect our nation as a whole. We have to get much tougher, we have to get much smarter, and we have to get much less politically correct. We're so politically correct that we're afraid to do anything. And that's not only our country, that's other countries too that are having very similar problems. And we have to get tough, we have to get smart, we have to do what's right to protect our citizens.
The ISIS logo on it, and I think investigators are looking at that photo to find out it was posted on the website of ISIS in August. And so that's something that investigators are looking at right now in terms of are there other people involved. Right now it looks like this is a lone wolf case.
Glad you're with us. 25 now till the top of the hour. The Halloween terrorist attack, New York City. As the president rightly pointed out, he got in through the diversity lottery system. Well, that's what Chuck Schumer bragged that he had authored. Maybe if he hadn't authored it, maybe those people that were mowed down would still be alive today. And similarly, you have Comrade Bill de Blasio. Well, he ended the surveillance system. If you had radicalism in mosque, this very mosque that he was at, we had one of the detectives that was actually monitoring it, and he said, yeah, there were plenty of radicals in that mosque. The diversity lottery program, no surveillance. President saying we need merit-based immigration, ending chain migration. He brought 20-some-odd people in here with him. And by the way, on top of all of that, you have Republicans that don't seem too concerned about changing the immigration laws in this country. Chris Kobach is with us, vice chair of the newly formed Commission on Election Integrity, and also the state of Kansas Secretary of State. How are you, sir?
Great to be with you again, Sean.
First, your comments on this. Then, of course, if we're going to have integrity in elections, I guess that means Hillary's no longer going to be allowed to steal elections and rig the system.
Yeah. Well, yeah, on this diversity visa lottery deal, this is outrageous that this is still part of our immigration system. I mean, you mentioned that Schumer was involved in the 1990 statute that made it permanent. There was in 1986, there was the first version of this lottery, and guess who was the one of the primary authors of that? None other than Ted Kennedy. So you've got something that's the brainchild of Ted Kennedy and Schumer. That should be your first clue that it's a pretty bad deal, and it's just horrible for the United States. We're giving away 50,000 green cards every year randomly,
and we don't even vet them.
Yeah, and without proper vetting. And you think about it. I look at it this way, Sean. So you've got this terrorist Saipov. He comes from Uzbekistan. Why anybody from Uzbekistan is even eligible for this lottery is beyond me. And there's a whole bunch of other countries where terrorism is very prominent that are eligible for this lottery. But the point is, look, most of the green cards we give away there is at least some small national interest served. Either the person comes in with a skill that our economy needs, or the person comes in and it serves to reunite a U.S. citizen with his family members or at least close relatives. But with the lottery, there is no national interest that's served. So we're taking a risk that always exists, that we're bringing in a terrorist for no national interest. There's no reason to take this risk. And so, although it's a lottery for the alien, it's Russian roulette for the United States. And this, by the way, is not the first terrorist who's come in through the diversity visa lottery. And I'm just delighted that President Trump is recognizing the cause of the problem, or one of the causes of the problem, and is willing to do something about it.
Let me ask you, you're now the vice chair of this newly formed Commission on Election Integrity, and we now learn that Hillary Clinton in the Democratic primary rigged the election. We heard this from Donna Brazile. Now, why do I think if Donald Trump, everybody, Terry McAuliffe, it's no big deal. Ed Rendell, it's no big deal. Let's move on, Nancy Pelosi says. And I'm thinking, yeah, okay, that would be your exact response if it ever happened in a Republican primary. And then we also see that now with the revelations on Fusion GPS, she tried to have the fix-in for the general election using bought and paid for Hillary propaganda from Russia. That was to influence the election. It's clear that the email server scandal, that whole thing was rigged by James Comey and Loretta Lynch and the tarmac meeting. Everything that in their lives, the primary, the general election, the email server, the tarmac meeting, everything with the Clintons is rigged. And yet there's no justice in this country so far.
You do a great job of summarizing all of it together.
By the way, it's not easy as people think. Keeping these things straight in my head is a little harder than people might know.
I fully get it. There's so many stories that are now starting to weave together. But one of the things that strikes me, and I'm sure you've noted this too, is that you've got this. You had this outrage. What was it? A month ago, when people were talking about Don Trump Jr. accepting one meeting request with a Russian with the concept that maybe perhaps this Russian might have something interesting to say about Hillary Clinton. And in contrast, you have the Clintons and the DNC paying millions of dollars to go to Russia to send spies and dig up information from Russians, a much bigger act and an active.
Do you notice as I do? I honestly feel that on radio and TV, and there are others, I don't want to say I'm the only one, but I feel like I'm like pounding the drum every day. The evidence is overwhelming. It is incontrovertible. And yet we still focus on Trump-Russia collusion. And this past weekend, Dianne Feinstein says there's no evidence. And then here we have all it. Look, if I deleted 33,000 emails, wouldn't I be arrested that were subpoenaed? Wouldn't that be called? If I bleach bit my subpoenaed hard drives and acid wash them and break BlackBerries, wouldn't I get in trouble with that?
Yeah, especially if you're the subject of an investigation.
And if I had classified information on a mom-and-pop server that 5 foreign sources, enemies, were able to hack into, intelligence services, wouldn't that be, compromising American security basically for the purpose of bypassing congressional oversight, constitutional oversight?
We haven't even started talking about Uranium One yet. We're still, how many felonies have we talked about already?
I mean, I feel like I really do. I know that this is what you understand. And but it's like it's like you have to almost bang the country over the head with something for them to be aware of just how bad this is. In the case of Uranium One, we need to import uranium, Chris Kolbach. We don't have enough uranium.
That's right.
And after 2009, you have the FBI director at the time, Mueller. You have the attorney general at the time, Eric Holder. They know about bribery, extortion, kickbacks, money laundering, and racketeering by Putin's thugs and spies that want him to get into our uranium market, and they didn't do anything. Does that make sense to you?
No, not at all. And why there hasn't been a thorough investigation at multiple levels, not just by the executive branch, but also by Congress on the Uranium One deal, I do not know. But in my mind, that is the one that poses the greatest threat to the United States of all of the misdeeds that we're talking about.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. What is your political future? What are your plans? Because you know what? I think you're one of the rare people. You see how Republicans are in Washington. You can say it. I say it every day. They're weak. They're a shadow of their former selves. They have no vision. And look at this tax bill, for example. They abandoned ever being considered Reagan conservative supply side, economic policies. Rising tide lifts all boats because they're afraid of being victims of class warfare, like they were afraid to use the power of the purse with health care. What do you make of the state of the Republican Party?
Well, I think it's full of too many people who are scared of their own shadow, too many politicians who just want to please everybody. And so if they sense that there's any controversy in any vote or in any policy, they shy away from it. And that's not what you should be elected to do. You should go in based on principle and not worry about offending people and realize that if you're going to push for conservative principles, there will be some people in this country who won't like it and will call you names, but that's okay. You have to do it, and you have to realize that this is a tough game, and you have to stand on principle, not on wanting to be liked by everybody. And I think we have way too many Republicans in Congress and in the governor's houses around this country who want to be loved, not want to push for conservative principles. So in answer to your question, a few months ago, I declared that I'm running for governor in the state of Kansas. We have an open seat next year. Brownback will be retiring, and he'll be retiring actually before the term ends. And so it's an open race for the governor's position in Kansas, and I'm going to take the same staunch conservative principles.
Why don't you go to Washington instead? I'd rather see you in Washington, although Kansas deserves a good governor. Kansas is a great state.
Well, there are important things to be done on both levels. There's no question.
By the way, you'll have a lot more. You'll have a much stronger ability to get things done. What I'm telling you to do is going to be the most frustrating thing in your life. You know what? You're probably making the right decision.
Well, as governor, you can actually make a lot of change, and you can make it quickly. And hopefully, the people in Washington will see what happens when a state does something to reinforce.
Well, we have great governors. Republicans do have great governors that have done a lot of good for their states. But I think the Republican Party is in drastic need of a spine transplant right now.
All right. Absolutely.
Chris, appreciate it. I am supporting your effort, unless you tell me not to, because I would endorse you. But if it's going to hurt you, I won't endorse you.
Are you kidding? Welcome your endorsement any day of the week, of course.
Well, I strongly recommend the people of Kansas. You're one of the rising, conservative stars in the country, and just don't let me down like Ben Sass did.
Yeah, don't worry. I won't be going that direction.
All right, Chris, thank you. Appreciate it. 800-941-SEAN. It's not that hard. And just think about this for a second. What is missing when I say if Republicans don't want to fight for conservative supply-side economics? Now, they're doing a good job on the corporate side. I'm going out of my way to say that. The repatriation, good. President's done everything he can do as it relates to getting rid of Obama burdensome regulations. I think the corporate drop is imperative. The repatriation is imperative. But here's where they have given up. Republicans, just like with Obamacare, they were afraid they'd get blamed for a government shutdown. Ted Cruz stood up and said, wait a minute, constitutionally, co-equal branches of government, separation of powers, we have the power of the purse. We can defund Obamacare. And all the show votes, 60 in the House, however many in the Senate, were meaningless. Just like the 2015 vote in the Senate, just to repeal Obamacare. It passes with every Republican then, but when it actually matters, they're nowhere to be found. 7 of them changed their vote. The exact same bill. Except this time you have a president that would actually sign it. It's the same thing with this tax bill. They don't have an appetite to engage in the fight. And I'm going to tell you something. Look, let me be blunt. My position in 2016 leading up to this election, my obituary in terms of doing this show and doing television, I promise you, was written 1,000 times. His career's over. He supported Trump. His career's over. Just like when I was vetting Obama in 07 and 08, you got to stop. You're gonna lose your job. You've gone way too far now. And I'm like, I don't listen to people. I don't put my finger in the air and decide, I better go easy because I want to keep the job that I love. And you know what? The interesting irony of all of this is when you stand up for what you want and what you believe, and you fight for what you believe, it actually works out better. You in this audience know I'm not BSing you. I'll put it all on the line for what I believe. And that's what's missing in Washington. The idea that, all right, I might get fired, but I'm fighting for those tax cuts. I'm fighting to repeal and replace, and I'm not giving up. That's missing. That is the shadow of their former self. That is not the Republican Party that under Reagan dropped the top marginal rates from 70 to 28%. That's sad. And you know what the other irony in all this is? When you take courageous steps and you keep your promises, you get reelected. The very thing that they don't want to have happen, that they'd lose their seat, is more secure by doing the right thing. It's crazy. Anyway, let me tell you about LegalZoom.com. If you're a business owner, you know how important it is to keep moving forward. Moving forward. That's what living's about. Moving forward. You get up. It's not how hard you hit. It's how hard you get hit, and you keep on moving. Keep on moving. I love that speech. Anyway, all right, so the president is in South Korea. The world is going to be watching tonight what he has to say about Kim Jong-un. Scheduled to speak right at the top of the show. We'll have full reaction afterwards. It's expected to be a hard-hitting speech, and so we'll find out what that's all about. John Bolton will react after. Sebastian Gorka will join us, and much more. That's tonight at 9. Set your DVR. Hannity, Fox News, Sarah Carter also tonight. See you then, and back here tomorrow.